I'm here with Sasha Boerma, the commercial director of Africa for Split the Pot.
Correct.
Thank you for making time for us today. I just want to ask you how your Sigma's been thus far.
The segment has been absolutely amazing. It has been exceptionally busy. Like I said, I feel like we almost need a third day. It's been speed dating of another level. So I've definitely got my 10,000 steps in. I don't even have to check, don't even have to check my whip band. We've definitely got them in. But it's been really good.
Okay, that's awesome. Now, obviously, you play quite an important role in the industry, and I'd love to get stuck into some of these questions. What are the biggest challenges and opportunities for gaming companies like yourself to operate successfully across, the diverse African markets with various regulations and infrastructure?
Well, if we're talking about South Africa or Africa, they obviously pose different
Yeah.
challenges. So, if obviously for South Africa, the framework in which we operate is very, very different. So, you'll need a manufacturing license as a game provider, you
Okay.
need to have your games tested. So, it's a bit of a different sort of setup, which is quite complicated or overwhelming for game
Yeah.
providers coming in. And often I get asked that question, and just a simple explanation scares them off. And they really don't need to be scared. We've got some really good people that can help navigate these things. It's not that scary and it's well worth it. And then again, of course, within the whole of Africa, so obviously that specific challenge, which is in South Africa, doesn't apply to the rest of Africa.
Yeah.
But then again, the player base is very different and what they respond to is very different. So obviously, just spending a lot of time and effort on localization really pays back its dividends. That's something else that can be overwhelming, but attending conferences like this or, gives you that type of footprint
Yeah.
and knowledge and network where those challenges can easily be sought out.
Okay. And just talking about player behavior, which you mentioned, how is player behavior in Africa different from other regions? And how should companies adapt to meet those preferences? You did touch on localization, but maybe let's expand a bit more.
So that's a very interesting question. Everyone sort of assumes that Africa is Africa, and
Yeah.
Africa is most definitely not Africa. The player behavior, I'll use three examples because they're so incredibly different. There was an assumption that the player behavior in Botswana was going to mimic the player behavior of South Africa.
Okay.
And recently, a few operators have branched out and they have set up casinos. And we can even see with our games, were told this assumption, we agreed with the assumption, but it's actually not like that at all. The
Okay.
Botswanan player base is completely different and liking games that we initially thought were not great games because they weren't performing in the South African market.
Yeah.
So that assumption, even though we were pretty certain, are often dispelled and misproven. So it's kind of being open to that, watching content, trying new things to learn how those players
Okay.
respond. Another example is that Nigeria is actually the complete opposite to South African players and
Okay.
being aware of that. So the games that work here with, high risk, high volatility are completely opposite in, for example, Nigeria. Nigerians actually play very similar behavior to that of the United States.
Oh. Okay.
So, knowing those sort of insights when you're producing your games, again, your game you're going to create is going to be very different for Nigerian in look, feel, sounds to that of the South African market.
Okay.
So, there's a lot of intricacies to it,
Yeah.
but it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of thinking. And if you get it right, there's lots of opportunity for you.
That's such interesting insight. Um, in your view, how can gaming contribute to economic development, employment, and the digital innovation in Africa? Obviously, the industry is growing so rapidly.
So this is a fun one,
Yeah.
because obviously crash games in Africa have absolutely boomed, and it's a bit of entertainment. It's not just gaming.
Yeah.
So that just opens up a world of opportunities, whether it's peer to peer playing or new fun concepts. And we have really strong development teams
Yeah.
at quite cost effective models in South Africa,
Okay.
which can definitely be leveraged off. And the development using AI is there as well. But the pitfall, and we were using this example yesterday, is if you put into AI, want a game with a Viking and three operators or three studios do it, they're all going to look the same.
Yeah.
So again, having people that know that and are able to work the system. So you use AI together with developer, you can have a really strong ecosystem of a studio.
Yeah.
And again, it's a very robust industry. Things are changing. People like new
Yeah.
games, and the way the games are being played are changing. So
Okay.
there's a lot to be said for gaming. And I don't remember if this is coming later, but also the scope of infrastructure in South Africa is quite different. And a technology that's only used here and a little bit in Africa, but is totally unheard of in the rest of the world is data free.
Okay.
So if you speak to anyone from tier one, they don't know what that is. So it's actually called reverse billing, where the operator pays for the data that is used by the player,
Okay.
which for me didn't make any sense logically. I was like, if you don't have enough money to pay for a bet
Yeah.
or your data, why would you be spending money on a bet? And that was explained to me quite simplistically. I don't know if you want me to give
I
you
would
that
love you
explanation.
to, please.
So this is how it was explained to me, and it blew my mind. In all honesty, so they were saying that if you're sitting in the township and it's the nearest betting shop to go buy your voucher is 2 kilometers away, you need to pay for a taxi to go to that shop to buy your voucher to play your favorite game.
Okay.
So what the reverse billing's doing is they're taking that taxi money. And they know that if they give you free data, you're going to place your bet and
Okay.
place your taxi money on that game,
Yeah.
and they've done the maths and the model to see that that is extremely profitable. So it's
Okay.
actually a massive part of the market that is now starting to be explored, and a technology that's completely new.
Such an interesting perspective looking at that way. Wow. My last question, Sasha. How do you see the African gaming and online gambling market evolving over the next few years and the trends that are driving this growth?
So a very interesting question. Obviously, I'm sure you've heard there's a speculation where regulation is going to go in
Yes.
South Africa. That's got to do with obviously online gambling tax. How are operators going to pivot? Are we going to use different licenses to kind of
Yeah.
avoid things?
Okay.
What's going to happen with advertising? So there's a lot going to be changing.
Okay.
We're a very robust industry, so we find other ways. We're very resourceful. We're very
Yeah.
creative. So there's going to be a lot of things changing, and but casinos and operators, we have an appetite for change, and we're quite creative thinkers. So there's a lot of fun things happening for those who are brave enough.
Just on a personal level, I know it's a very short interview, but the insight in packed into that interview really, really, really cool. This is Sasha Boerma, the commercial director for Africa for Split the Pot. Thank you so much for your time, and I genuinely mean that. So insightful. I mean, I
Thank you
feel
so
like
much.
I could speak to you for another half an hour. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time.
Cheers.
Cheers.